No, bro. Okay. Just like last time, give me a second. I have one more thing I need to do before I do it. I think I'm going to do that one. Good. Okay. All right. Okay. There you go. I think. Yes. All right. Coming to you live from Music City, USA, aka Nashville, Tennessee. This is the ALLANal Podcast with Sebastian Starr. I'm your host, Sebastian Starr, and today we are going off of a playlist that I found on my Apple Music account last week, I think, called R&B Now. So I'm just calling this R&B Now, and I'm basically going to just go over a couple of different artists, music, comparing, contrasting this versus that, and kind of give a breakdown of what modern day R&B music sounds like, feels like, looks like. So I know that I had mentioned previously at some point that I felt like R&B music now versus what you would refer to as R&B, say like in the 90s or the 2000s, is very, very different. I've always said that my particular favorite genre of music is alternative R&B, but when I say that, I don't think that people know what I'm talking about when I say alternative R&B. And then you got to think, okay, well, what do you mean when you say R&B, and how does you make that alternative? So for anyone who may or may not be aware of what I'm talking about when I say that, I have a couple of examples. Before I dive into the complexities of what makes alternative R&B, I do want to talk about what is making modern day R&B now so, mainstream and productive. So one of the first people that I want to talk about is Leon Thomas. Now, for those of you who may or may not know, a lot of people got introduced to Leon Thomas this year with his song Mutt, and of course his Tiny Desk performance and things like that. But I got introduced to Leon Thomas back in the early 2010s from Nickelodeon. Now, I don't think he's the type that wants to dive too deep into his work and role in the Nickelodeon network, especially with all the controversies that came out last year with behind Quiet on the Set and the behind the scenes documentaries and stuff like that. He doesn't really talk about it, but he was on Victorious. I think he first made an appearance on iCarly as just like an extra in an episode where he played like a musician who wrote music, and they really, really liked him, I guess, because they gave him a spot on Victorious, and his role on Victorious is a character named Andre, which, if you don't know the premise of Victorious, is just about the main character, Victoria Justice, going to a artistic school for like gifted students. So they're actors, they're musicians, they're painters, they're sculptors, they're, very, very creative. And Andre was one of the students at the school who was really, really big into music. He sang, he played drums, he played piano, he danced, he did all of that. So I love Andre on Victorious. First and foremost, he was always one of my favorites. Not only is he extremely gifted, but he's hilarious. He was very, very funny. He was very much logical and realistic when it came to the whimsy and quirkiness that teenage shows on Nickelodeon had at that time. You always had the over-exaggerated, drama that kind of came with it, that just over-the-top, just ridiculousness. But Andre's character was very much like humble. He stayed to himself. He was really, really quiet. And when he did crash out, it was for a very, very good reason. And he had some of the funniest one-liners throughout the show series. But another big thing that his character was always trying to make music. He wrote a lot of the songs on Victorious that were performed throughout the series of the show. And any chance he got to perform, he took full advantage. So that's how I got introduced to Leon Thomas. So after Victorious ended, he continues to make music, kind of playing behind the scenes. I compare him to Neo, who, if you know anything about Neo, back in the early 2000s, he did a lot of songwriting and producing for people. He was a backup vocalist and musician for a lot of really big hit songs back in the early 2000s. And then kind of in the mid 2000s, he started putting out his own music. So now you're starting to see Neo's face everywhere. And then he gets into acting and he's in movies and TV shows and everybody loves Neo. That is where Leon Thomas is right now. He started off making music. Ariana Grande was also on Victorious, so he still wrote music for her. He writes music for SZA, and, he's winning all of these awards for his songwriting and his musical talents. But now he's starting to put out his own music and make a name for himself as an artist. So those were those kind of parallel. To me, I would say Leon Thomas is the new Neo, or the 2020s version of Neo. In my opinion, that's what I think. And speaking of his music, he put out the song Mutt a couple of weeks ago and then released the Chris Brown remix like 2 weeks ago. And everybody was going crazy about that. And people were absolutely loving it. And they're like, oh my God, Chris Brown and Leon Thomas are making a song together. And she's like, all right, cool. So I, of course, listened to it. And I was trying to figure out, what the big hype was. Because again, Leon Thomas has worked with other artists before. He's worked with Ariana Grande and SZA. He's made, music for them for years. He was making music for years. It just in general. So, but I feel like this was the first time that he kind of came onto the scene with someone. I'm not going to say as big as, because he's worked with a lot of big name people before. But this was like the first publicly big thing that he did in a really long time with someone who's super duper mainstream like Chris Brown. Like, it's not an easy thing to get a Chris Brown feature is what I'm trying to say, I think. Like, I think that's really, really hard to do because he's such an exclusive artist and has been doing this for decades and decades and decades. And we just talked about residuals last week. So on top of the residuals challenge, you get a song like Mutt that comes out and everybody loves it. Chris Brown, whether he just appreciates the song or is trying to get up on the marketing thing, is like, oh, well, how about I hop on the remix? And obviously you're not going to say no to Chris Brown, right? But I do think this is a good example of how you can do what is going to be later explained, in my opinion, the difference between mainstream R&B and alternative R&B. So there's this theory that I've been kind of trying to gather, and I think that this song is a pretty good example of what that theory looks like in person. So you have the song in question, which is the Mutt Chris Brown remix. So the first verse is Leon Thomas. I have the lyrics pulled up here. Once again, the lyrics are powered by Genius. This isn't a sponsorship, but I'm just using their website to get the lyrics up. So if I get the lyrics wrong, don't blame me. So the first verse is Leon Thomas. He says, I can't smoke on Reggie, so pardon my bluntness. I see past pretty faces, so I got trouble trusting. But I'll let my guard down for you. I said, I put my guard down for you. Said, I'll be vulnerable so you can break my heart if you want to. First of all, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. So let's just talk about the poetry in that first verse. He says, I can't smoke on Reggie, so pardon my bluntness. Obviously, play on words, double entendre. Reggie is another term for like mild or regular weed. And if you can't smoke it, then you are lightweight. So pardon my bluntness, which a blunt is what you smoke weed out of. And it's just a beautifully expressed form of expression. I can't really put it into words too well, but I just think that was really, really cute. I see past pretty faces, so I got trouble trusting. I can look past the fact that you're gorgeous. I can look past the fact that you have this demeanor, this way of presenting yourself, and see you for what you really are. I see true colors right away. That's that 2020 vision type of thing that I got going on. And regardless of all of that, I'll let my guard down for you. I'll put my guard down for you. I'll be vulnerable so you can break my heart if you want to. I'm allowing myself to be in a position where if you wanted to take advantage of me, I would let you do that. Why? And the chorus comes in. She says, take your time. What's the rush? I said, baby, I'm a dog. I'm a mutt. And it's just like, because I'm a man, I'm a dog. I don't have any real self-respect. I'm not even a purebred. I'm what you toss out onto the street and let somebody pick up and take to the homeless shelter. Like, I'm just here for the ride. I'm here for the experience. I'm here for the moment. I'm a wild dog. So that's alone is beautiful, which I think further proves my point. So let's get into Chris Brown's verse, which is verse number 2 in the song. He says, how can I take it easy with the way you do that thing I like? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. Hold on. He said, how can I take it easy with the way you do that thing I like? Keep on grabbing on my chains. You're coming home with me tonight. Baby, I'm a different breed and not your typical. I love it when you make me chase. Might just listen when you tell me stay. I'm going to stop right there because Chris Brown is a great lyricist, but he lets a lot of his vocal work for him, if that makes sense. But this verse is very sticking to the script, if that makes sense. It's a very literal. When Leon Thomas says, I'm a dog, I'm a mutt, he's saying, I'm not worth the extra attention, the care, or responsibility that you would give to someone who is pure of heart, who is good enough. Chris Brown is just a dog. He says, I'm a different breed. So maybe I am like the high maintenance, you know what I'm saying? Maybe I am a little bit more high maintenance. Maybe I am, worthy of that extra care and attention. But I also need someone who's going to hold it down for me on the obedient side as well. Like, I'll do whatever you want me to if you keep doing what I like. You know what I'm saying? It's a very cross of those two personalities kind of coming together. But I do think that Chris Brown's pinnacle in this song is his vocal skills. And that brings me to my first point. So the real difference, in my opinion, between mainstream R&B and alternative R&B is that when it comes to mainstream R&B artists, and I have a short list here, Coco Jones, Usher, LMA, Summer Walker, Ari Lennox. These are all musicians who can sing very, 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 very well. Extraordinarily well. Giftedly. To the point where you can look at them and be like, oh my God, there's no way that they can. And then they open up their mouths to sing and they blow you away. Lyrically, they keep it very simple. Musically, it can be soft and suave and smooth and tasteful and elegant and relaxing, almost therapeutic. Lyrically, it's very, very simple. It's very straight to the point. I love you. I miss you. I'm sorry that I hurt you. I didn't mean to do it. Let's start over. Let's try again. Let's get better. Let's make a baby. It's R&B shit. It's sexy shit. It's smooth shit. It's grind with me shit. You know what I mean? It's very, very straightforward. It's very straight to the point. It's very, very simple. And their pinnacles are their vocal skills. Their vocals outshine anything and everything that they do. And this isn't to target any of them specifically, but these are also a type of artists who have other people write their music for them because they need to focus on being a great vocalist and not so much with the complexities of, intricate lyricism, which brings me to the alternative side of things. That lyricism is what makes complex R&B alternative because you're not just talking about that straightforward let's make love music, or I just broke up with my ex music, or I got a crush on you music, or you make me feel like this music. It's a little bit deeper than that. So you have Gallant, SZA, The Weeknd, Leon Thomas, Don Toliver. These are all musicians who have complex lyrics, still amazing vocals, still great vocals, still vocals that are up there with the angels in the universe. But musically, it's a lot more colorful. It's technical. It's rhythmic. It has this very unusual imbalance of sound quality. And when you hear it, you can either be put off on it because it's very, very different, or you'll lean into it because it's very, very different. So they'll combine this amazing vocal skill with these extremely complex lyrics. It's a lot more poetic, a lot more metaphoric, a lot more double entendres and sensories being kind of triggered all at the same time. And they combine that with their amazing vocals, this symphonic sound and these complex poetic lyrics, and it becomes this thing that is unusual, that is alternative. And that's where that alternative R&B kind of morphs from, is this big, beautiful, colorful spectrum of sound, lyrics, and vocals that you really don't get from mainstream or simplistic R&B music. So that is, in my opinion, the difference between the two. So if you listen to somebody like Chris Brown, who we've already discussed Chris Brown in detail in great length, we know what kind of artist that we're dealing with. And you listen to someone like Leon Thomas, who is still very traditional, but he has ventured into the alternative world from time to time. Because again, he's written music for SZA and Ariana Grande, who does pop. So it's not like he's unfamiliar with how alternative sounds work. And it's not that hard to really dive into, but that's what we're kind of dealing with. So that is, again, in my opinion, the difference between mainstream and alternative R&B. So when I say I prefer alternative R&B, or alternative R&B is my favorite genre of music, it's still R&B, it's still love, it's still breakup, it's still sex, it's still passion. It just sounds very, very different from what you're probably used to hearing on the radio. So with that, we're going to dive into a little bit of SZA with the song Luther. Now, if you watched the Super Bowl, because who didn't watch the Super Bowl? It was, 4.2 billion people or something stupid like that who watched the Super Bowl. You definitely heard the song. And if you haven't, I'm sorry, but we're gonna dive into it just a little bit today. So the song Luther is actually by Kendrick Lamar. Excuse me. And it is featuring, or it's a duet. It's definitely a duet between the two of them for sure. He performed it at the Super Bowl and among some other things. And I remember the first time I heard this song, I was actually listening to the album that this song is on. So it's GNX 3. No, GNX, I'm sorry. It's track 3 on GNX. And I remember listening to it and I was thinking to myself, this song sounds really, really good, but I don't think other people are going to like it. Like, the sample is very, very strong. It's very straightforward. The music itself that ties into the sample, if you don't know, the song is called Luther because it samples the song If This World Were Mine by Luther Vandross. So if you don't know, you know now. So I was just like, I don't know how people are going to feel about that sample. It's just so heavy. And then I started hearing it everywhere. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess people like the song, to my surprise. And honestly, shouldn't be too surprised because, again, the song is great. And I absolutely love it. But I didn't think that anybody else would get it, because a lot of people don't even know who Luther Vandross is. And I heard through the grapevine being TikTok, that a lot of people were saying, oh, wouldn't it be so cool if Kendrick Lamar got Luther Vandross to perform this song with him one time? That would be awesome. Luther Vandross passed away like over 10 years ago. So unless he is a master of necromancy, I don't think that's going to happen. Who knows? He could surprise me. Anyway, let's just dive into the verses real quick. So first verse, Kendrick Lamar comes in very soft. And you know, you're used to hearing Kendrick Lamar really aggressive. You know, he has that small dog syndrome, that Napoleon complex. But this, he very much tones it down. And I feel like whenever he works with SZA, he very much tones down the aggression just enough to make, because SZA's voice is very, very soft, very angelic, very spiritually connected to herself and in tune with the universe. Like, she's a black hippie at heart for sure, but he kind of brings it down a little bit to meet up on her level. So he comes in, his first verse, Roman numeral 7, bae, drop it like it's hot. If this world was mine, I'd take your dreams and make them multiply. If this world was mine, I'd take your enemies in front of God, introduce them to that light, hit them strictly with that fire. And he goes, fire, fire, fire. I'm not going to do it, but you know what I'm talking about. I'm trying not to sing it. I'm trying to read it. And it's kind of hard to do when you're hearing the song in your head. I want to go right into the chorus, which is both of them together. In this world, concrete flowers grow. Heartache, she's only doing what she knows. Weekends, Get it popping on the low. Better days coming for sure. If it was up to me, I wouldn't. Oh, just advertisement. If it was up to me, I wouldn't give these nobodies no sympathy. I'd take away the pain. I'd give you everything. I just want to see you win. That's so dreamy, and it's so nice to hear that type of passion that they have musically, and it doesn't go unnoticed, obviously, right? I think, though, because I did an episode a couple of years ago where I talked about the ultimate dynamic duos in music. They have put out a lot of music together, and they really have solidified themselves as a really good musical dynamic duo, to the point where anytime Kendrick pulls SZA in for a feature or a duet or anything, it's always going to work. I have yet to hear a song by the two of them that does not work. And as a matter of fact, I want to go ahead and go to another one. I said I wasn't going to do, but I am, because I do like it. 30 for 30, which is on SZA's album, SOS Deluxe. And it has another really strong sample from a song back in the day, an old school classic. And it works. It always works. So the first little intro part is the chorus, and it's both of them at the same time saying, some of y'all gonna get washed, some of y'all just gonna pop shit, some of y'all just gonna talk, but none of y'all ain't really about shit. Some of y'all just look lost. I get this type of feeling you ain't accustomed to. I swear I'd like to be at peace if it weren't for you. Only want your love if it's solid, but if it's fuck me, then fuck you, and that's the way I like it. And it's weird. So you have a song like Luther that's talking about all this love and passion, and if this world were mine, I would do this, I would do that, because I only want to see you win, I only want to see you happy, I only want to see you joyous and content and comfortable and in love. And then this song is like, man, okay, so you got an issue with me, like what the fuck is your problem? And then it's like, I got an issue with you, okay, what the fuck is your problem? And you kind of go back and forth with this bitter frenemies thing. And it still kind of works. Like, I hate you, but I don't want to be with anybody else but you. And it works out that way. And I just think that that's hilarious. I think it's so cute. So, and again, we're creating a balance, right? So you have Kendrick Lamar, who's really, really aggressive and hardcore with a lot of his lyricism. They're very straight shot, like getting shot at by a handgun. And you have SZA, who's very like poised and soft and graceful and peaceful. So she kind of balances out his aggressive music tactic with her own soft, equivalent. And then they can meet in the middle somewhere, and it blends so lovingly that you forget that it's two completely different genres at play. And I think the best type of musical collaborations happen when you have two artists that kind of polar opposite each other, but when they combined, they pull out their strengths from the other person. And they always make great music. And I think it was something that The Weeknd had actually said about Lana Del Rey, because I had used them as a really good example of dynamic duos. He said that she is the girl in his music that he's singing about, and he believes that he is the guy in her music that she's singing about. So there's nothing romantic going on between the two of them personally, but their musical personas are soulmates, if that makes sense. So if you're looking at it from the Kendrick Lamar and SZA's perspective, their music sings back and forth to each other. They play into each other musically. So when they combine with each other musically, it's always perfect. It's always beautiful. And it's always this masterpiece. And I think someone somewhere on an interview with SZA kind of jokingly asked, well, how would you feel about a collaboration album with Kendrick? I mean, you make so much music together. Why hasn't that happened yet? And she was like, I wouldn't be against that, I would love to. It's just, we're so busy, but we always make good music. He always pulls me in for a great project, and I would never say no to him. So if we did come together for an EP or an album, that would be just great. So I would be looking forward, and I wouldn't be surprised, because there was one point in time where combo albums were coming out. Fucking Metro Boomin just did one last year with a whole bunch of people. So it's not unheard of to do something like that, but I think that it would be a phenomenal idea. We're going to keep moving down my little list here. I have a couple of more songs that I want to dive into in regards to this topic. This song right here has been on heavy rotation for me for the past couple of days. I'm not even going to hold you because I dove deeper into it. I looked past the surface of whatever you want to call it, and I just felt this I just felt something kind of click. And it's personal, obviously, but it's definitely something that I can relate to now more than ever, I think. So first of all, the song in question is called 20s by Giveon. Before I dive into the song though, let me stop. I want to hit the pause button. So at some point last week, I was hanging out with my cousins who I always hang out with. I've mentioned them a couple of times. I've had them on the podcast a few times before. And we were just listening to music. And they always introduce me to some weird shit that they are into because none of us listen to the same music. We're all very, very different. If my favorite genre is alternative R&B, you got one of them that's into old school R&B and another one that's into like ratchet girl music. So we listen to different shit every time we get together. It's always something different. But we stumbled across Giveon and we stumbled across the song and we were listening to it. And one of them goes, I think he has a British accent. And I was like, nah, I don't think he does. But then I thought about it. I was like, I've never heard him speak like just casually. So of course I had to go on my phone and find a video of him just talking. And I believe it was a genius interview. His certified. He was breaking down one of his songs. I didn't even watch the whole video. I was just focusing on how he was talking. And not only does this nigga not have a British accent, but he's from like the Valley in California. Like he's deep off into the crisp of like Californication. And he sounds like, and this is what blew my brain into smithereens, he sings like a Greek god. His voice is low, almost like a hum, and it is coming from like the back of his throat. And it's so deep and it's so packed. It's like a fucking chocolate milkshake. It's so thick and dark and rich, and it's not bitter, but it's like a little bitter with a whole lot of sweet. It's like syrup. It's like chocolate syrup. His voice is like chocolate syrup. It's delicious, right? This is his singing voice. This is how he sounds when he's putting on these ballads and he's belting and he's singing with passion and love and heartbreak, and he's giving it to you. Why does he sound? Why does he talk like he goes to MTech every single year? Why does he talk like he's seen every single episode of every single anime that has ever existed on the planet? Why does he talk like he does cosplay for fun on the weekends? Why does he talk like he has a Dragon Ball Z figurine collection in his house somewhere? Why does he talk like his basement is decked out like a cliche gamer boy's bedroom with this giant display of any kind of prop ornament from any type of cartoon? Why is it like he plays Dungeons and Dragons? Why does he talk? Why does he talk like he works for an IT company? Why does he talk? Why does he talk like he's trying to put on a persona for he's code switching? He talks like he's in a business meeting. He talks like he has white coworkers who doesn't know how to pronounce his last name. He talks like he owns a Fortune 500. He talks like he drives a Porsche. He talks like a fucking nerd, like a dweeb. He talks like he is allergic to cheese. He talks. I said out loud, he was the nigga in high school who got girls because he could sing real good. Because if he walked up to me and started speaking, and I'm not one to talk. I'm not. Don't take this as anything other than me just trying to be funny. I promise you that if you walked up to me right now in this moment in time, I'd probably pass the fuck out, because he's very, very handsome and he makes great music. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know how tall he is, I didn't Google it, but he looks like he's a strong 6'3". Like he's big as hell. Like he's very, very tall. He's very, very broad shouldered. He looks like he plays football. He sounds like he plays video games, and he sings like a god. Nothing about this man makes sense. Nothing about this man makes sense. But damn it, this song has a chokehold on me right now, and I cannot stop listening to it. It is the most beautiful song that I have heard. And again, it's only because I feel like I can relate to it. And it's so personal. And I just can't get over. And this is what blows me. And it's kind of a fascinating thing. I just spent like 5 minutes talking about him. I'm sorry. The thing that blows me about an artist who doesn't speak the way that they sing is when you listen to them speak, you don't think that they can sing. There are some people who, when they speak and then they sing, you can make that connection to the two of them. You can hear it. And then you have some people who are, really good at changing their voices up. They can go really, really high or really, really low or whatever. And those people can usually sing pretty good too because they know how to move their voice. And they have great breath control. But then there's some people who just come out of nowhere. And Daniel Caesar is another example. I'm not going to dive too deep into dances because I'm going to light his ass up too. But Daniel Caesar is another great example of a nigga who you look at and there's no way that you can sing as beautifully. And I'm not going to get too off base because I'm going to come back to Daniel Caesar at some point. I promise you I'm going to do it. But he don't look like he can sing either. And then he starts talking, and it's like, this motherfucker's a weirdo. So I find it fascinating. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to make fun of nobody. I find it fascinating that Giveon, oh my God, why did I talk about him like that? Oh my goodness. I find it fascinating that Giveon can sing his ass off, but when he speaks, he does not sound like he can sing at all. Like, not even a little bit. And I wonder, like, was just your admiration the entire time? Have you always wanted to be an artist? Did you always want to be a singer? Have you always wanted to do music? And I just can't imagine. And then you got to stop and wonder, how many people out there in the world do you just know casually that you talk to every single day? That you listen to them speak in these great, profound lectures, and they talk so well and they're so articulate and this, that, and the third. And then you get them in a vulnerable state and they just start singing. And then they sound good. And you're like, what the fuck? And it's just like, how many people exist that can sing their asses off that you would never imagine? And I know a couple of people, and I haven't heard them sing, but I've heard that they can. And I'm listening to them. I'm just like, bro, there's no way in hell. There's no way in hell. You should be giving a lecture to IT students in California. Like, you don't need to be anywhere. I'm going to stop because, again, I'm not one to talk. I am not the one to talk about nobody's speaking voice, because I know that my speaking voice can be atrocious. I know that the way that I sound can come off as insufferable to some people. And I know that when it comes to singing, I'm no Cynthia Erivo. I'm not even close. So I can't talk about nobody. This is just me trying to be funny. I promise you, I don't want nobody to come for me and take this personal. I'm just trying to be funny. But that nigga sounds, he talks like a Poindexter, but he sings like a fucking god. Let's get into I just had to get it out of my system. Okay, let's get into the lyrics. Let's just dive into I'm so sorry. Because I posted this on my Instagram that this was going to be one of the topic songs of this episode. And I'm not. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so 20s by Giveon. It's still fairly new. I remember seeing this on my TikTok, a little snippet of it, and I thought the music was so hypnotic. And it just drew me in. Like, it reeled me in like a fish. She cast that line out and reeled me right back up. And I was like, damn, this is lovely. I didn't really listen to the lyrics, though, until a couple of days ago. Excuse me. And that's when I went like, oh, man. And it just touched my soul in ways that I can't explain. So, the first verse. How was I supposed to know this is how it's gonna go? Thought that if I put you first enough, we would last for sure. Remember our first kiss was in a rental car. Now I kind of wish it was a hit and run. Crazy I let it get this far, but I was just young and dumb. And then we get into the pre-chorus. 6 years going down the drain. I guess I'm half to blame. I didn't know I'd be wasting my time. And then the chorus. Spending my 20s on you. I poured my heart in it. Don't get me started. I've spend my time wondering why I spent my 20s on you. Now, I want to talk about the chorus just for a quickie bit, because I am going to finish the song. Musically, it's very symphonic. It's very elegant. It's very ballroom, grand old Opry, level of extravagance. There's a beautiful, music being composed in the background, and his voice is just so elegantly blended into the mix. It sounds like, and this is probably just because of the snippet that I did see on TikTok, it sounds like what a room full of gold reflecting off of candles would look like. And he's just in the middle, in the ambiance, soaking it all up, and his skin is like reflecting off the gold and the candlelight, and it's just so elegant and beautiful. I don't know if that's just because that's what the snippet was, like I said, but that's just where I get when I hear it. During the chorus, that second half when he says, spend my time wondering why I spent my 20s on you, the music changes very, very slightly, and it's really quick to miss. But it's a very slight key signature change from a major to a minor when he said, I spent my 20s on you the second time. It's very, very subtle, and you don't really catch it until the big build-up toward the very end of the song where it kind of comes back. But it's right there, this very gradual transition from major to minor, and then it goes back into the major key again, and then the song continues to flush out. I don't know if that was just the way that it was composed, or was that done for a very specific reason, but I did peep that, and I thought that was nice. It was something about that kind of brings this unsettling eeriness, just for a moment. And then when you think about what's being said, the song is about spending the duration of your 20 years, so from 21 to 29, or 20 to 29, in a relationship with someone, and then the relationship doesn't work out. He even says it in the second verse. Let's dive into that really quick. He said, thought I was learning myself. I was just learning you. Is anything black and white when you're barely 22? So right there is kind of where the relationship started. You're in your early 20s. You're kind of getting out into the adult world for the first time, right? Because when you're 18, you're just graduated high school, probably starting college. You don't really know what the real world is like yet. But once you get into your 20s, especially once you hit 21, you can start doing more adult things. So when you're 22, it's a very new adulthood that you're stepping into. You're doing a lot of things for the very first time. So to meet somebody when you're 22 years old and falling in love with that person gradually over time, just for it to end when you get into your late 20s, is like my entire prime, essentially, was wasted pouring myself into someone who I thought I was going to have a long life with, when I should have been learning more about who I wanted to be as an adult, because you're supposed to do the trial and error thing in your 20s, right? You're supposed to go through phases of self-discovery and rediscovery and learning what you like and don't like, and learning what makes sense to you as far as where you see yourself when you are in your 30s or your 40s or whatever. And then you worry about settling down with someone and making a better life with someone and growing with someone. You don't really grow, or you can't really grow until you've discovered that part about yourself. So having that mentality and then feeling like you wasted it on someone who just ended up screwing you over anyway, regardless of what that looks like, is devastating. He goes on to say, clung on to you like a shirt to a sweater, hung on to you because I didn't know better. I felt like time was running out. I could tell the ship was going down. I was young and dumb. So at this point, you're like, you realize that you made a mistake at some point. And the pre-chorus comes back in. 6 years down the drain, I guess I'm half to blame. I didn't know I'd be wasting my time, spending my 20s on you. So you come to this realization moment where you kind of step back and look at that timeline. And you make that realization that it didn't have to work that way. It didn't have to come to this. But you were so enamored with the person that you were with, and the two of you had come to some kind of agreement at some point that you were going to make this work regardless. And when it didn't, and you knew that it wasn't, you kept trying to force it to, and it just wasn't going to pan out. So now you're conflicted because you're telling yourself, I could have ended this at any time. I could have stopped at any moment, but I was so sure that this was going to be the completion of my adult life, and I could continue being whatever kind of adult that I knew that I had the potential to be or was turning into, and I could make this work with this person. But then it just stopped working. And now I'm looking back on it like my prime is over. My time has come and gone. Now I'm in my 30s and I have to figure everything out all over again. I have to essentially start over. And it's devastating because you could have and should have spent that time learning who you were instead of learning who you could be for someone else. And now you have to learn who you are all over again. So, again, it's pretty devastating, but he does a phenomenal job at delivering the message. And I think vocally he does a phenomenal job with making you feel some type of way about it. Like, it's very impactful. And again, the song has a chokehold on me right now. Another really, really good song by Giveon that is out right now is the one that he has with Teddy Swims. And that one also kind of has a chokehold on me, but it's more on the love side. So if 20s is a breakup song, Are You Even Real is a, man, I can't believe that this is happening. You know, this is all too good to be true. And Teddy Swims. People, I don't know why I thought he was gonna be like a one-hit wonder with Lose Control, because that song, he reigned that song dry for like 2.5, 3 years. And then he comes out with this with a nigga like Giveon, and it's just like, yo, what? So the song starts off with Teddy Swims. He says, are you even real or did I make you up? How could someone like you want to give me love? Don't think I deserve you, but can't get enough. And then his pre-chorus is, you're so beautiful, spiritual, more like a miracle. Part of me scared that you might be invisible. Too good to be true. So I'm in like my delusional era. Right? Because there's no way that someone who is as breathtakingly beautiful and intelligent and intellectually in tune with themselves spiritually and mentally and emotionally can find someone like me, not only attractive, but you want to be in my presence as much as I want to be in yours. You want to see me. You want to interact with me. You want to be involved with me. Why? Am I just asleep? Is this a dream? Am I fantasizing that someone like you could actually exist in a world where someone like me who wants you and you want me, is that even a thing that we can do? Or am I just having an imaginary friend moment? Like, am I really believing that this is what's going on and that's what's happening? And then the chorus comes in, tell me, are you? And he just keeps saying it over and over again. Made up in my head or are you in my bedroom? Questions that I ask ever since I met you. Something from a dream or something that I made up. Questions that I ask every time I wake up. And then we get to Giveon's verse. Okay, and then we get to Giveon's verse. You never do too much. Somehow you're still enough for me. I can feel the rush even when you slow dance for me. Looking at you laying right there, are you from this world? I swear. Good grief. And then the pre-chorus and the chorus kind of continues over and over again. So they're both kind of in this like feeling of disbelief. They're both just so like, there's no way. You can't be serious. Like, this isn't happening. We're not doing this. And the reality is that's exactly what's going on. You're not delusional. I'm here sitting right in front of you telling you that I want you, that I love you, that you deserve me, that we deserve each other, that we're going to be happy and that everything's going to be great and everything that you want to hear, right? And it's just like, wow. So then you got to ask yourself, how the fuck does Giveon go from, are you even real? Did I just make you up? Or you play pretend to, I'm out of my prime and this is both of our faults and now we have to kind of start over. Like, it's beautiful how you can go in any kind of direction when it comes to R&B, and a lot of it is surrounded with the idea of love, whether it's love in a heartache form or love in a like honeymoon phase form or love in a I can't believe it's happening form, and it just kind of, it's a spectrum, right? There's levels to the shit, and I just think that that's a beautiful concept, and I think that these artists do that very, very well. There's one more song that we have to talk about, and this one is going to be good. This is Taste by Coco Jones. Now, again, Coco Jones started off doing like Disney Channel shit, you know, like she was, and she's made fun of herself for being that person, being that quirky, like, oh my God, it's me. Like, she's done that before. She's well aware of how some people were introduced to her in the beginning of her career. But she has definitely transformed into this icon of modern day R&B music. And she is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Gorgeous, beautiful voice, appealing visual music videos. And with this particular song right here, she does something very, very clever and creative that I absolutely appreciate. So, before I dive into the lyrics of the song, I do want to point out that the song Taste is another big sample from a pop song by Britney Spears called Toxic. So that song really, really, chirped off in the late 2000s, early 2010s. And this was like when Britney was kind of trying to get her redemption thing back going. And she was kind of rebranding herself. And it was very, very popular for obvious reasons. The song Toxic is about, being in love or obsessed with a guy who you just know is no good for you. There's red flags galore, and you just don't give a damn. Coco Jones somehow manages to take that song and flip it into this very, very sexy, desirable song. So the lyrics, we have verse 1. Got me where I'd never be, way you kiss my lips and leave a legacy. I love that. First of all, let's stop right there. That's beautiful. The way you kiss my lips and leave a legacy is insane. To live without you, what a tragedy. I can't get enough. All up in my conscience. I don't want another touch. Without you there, if I'm being honest, I'm falling in love. Beautiful, right? Pre-chorus. With a taste gets me in places I'm chasing, I can't erase it. Taste me, boy, and I'll taste you. The way I feel when I'm slipping under, which is another line from the original song. And the chorus is pretty much the entire chorus from the song Toxic. So, with the taste of your lips, I'm on a rise. You're toxic, I'm slipping under. Taste of your poison paradise, I'm addicted to you. Don't you know that you're toxic? So, knowing and being aware that somebody is just bad news and is just not good for you is one thing, but to take that as a good thing and transform it into a lustful urgency is the difference between the original song and the sample. So, I think she did a really good job with that. I think she managed to display that original concept of the song Toxic and still make it sound original. Because first of all, I don't know anybody who don't know who Britney Spears is. I mean, you might not, depending on what year you were born, but if you don't know who Britney Spears is, you can go back and listen to the song, and it sounds and it doesn't even sound like the same song. If you wouldn't have told me, I wouldn't have thought nothing of it. I would have thought this was an original concept, original lyrics, original everything, because it does not sound like a pop song from the mid to late 2000s, early 2010s. It doesn't sound like something that came from Britney Spears. But Coco Jones somehow managed to do that very, very well and make it extremely original. And not too many people can do that when it comes to samples, because usually you take the sample and you run off of it, which she did, but you can still hear and feel the original essence of the sample. The only thing that is original about the sample that she uses in her song is the flow of it. So if you go back and listen to the chorus, again, the chorus is word for word exactly the same thing. So it's the same flow, different music, different rhythm, different beats, different sounds, different vocals. Everything is different. The flow is the only thing that's exactly the same. And again, if you don't know who Britney Spears is, or you've never heard the song Toxic before, you're not going to make those two connections. But once you hear it, you're like, oh, okay. And now it all kind of makes sense. So again, kudos to Coco Jones, who did that flawlessly, effortlessly. And then the music video itself is even more insane. And she does it well. She does it very, very well. So that was just my quick, well, not quick, obviously not quick. We're almost an hour into it. But that was my quick little spiel on R&B Now. And again, this is just based off of a playlist that was on my Apple Music account. And it had a bunch of other songs on there that I really didn't have the time. We could have been here for 2 more hours if I had gone through every single song on that list. But these are the highlights, some of my personal favorites. And I think, again, a good way to kind of differentiate between simplistic and mainstream R&B versus complex and alternative R&B. So the next time somebody's like, I don't know what that means, you can just tell them what I said, and that'd be good enough for me. But thank you for those who decided to tune in today. I absolutely appreciate it. And like always, until next time, I will speak to you all later. Have a good day.